A bishop is an ordained or appointed member in a religious institution, who is generally entrusted with a position of authority and oversight. The title is most often used in Christian churches, but is also used in some Japanese Buddhist institutions, and by the Japanese new religion Tenrikyo, within the Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, Moravian, Anglican, Old Catholic and Independent Catholic churches, as well as the Assyrian Church of the East. Bishops claim apostolic succession, a direct historical lineage dating back to the original 12 apostles. Within these churches, bishops are seen as those who possess the full priesthood and can ordain clergy, including other bishops. Some Protestant churches, including the Lutheran, Anglican and Methodist churches, have bishops serving similar functions as well, though not always understood to be within apostolic succession in the same way. A person ordained as a deacon, priest, and then bishop is understood to hold the fullness of the priesthood, given responsibility by Christ to govern, teach, and sanctify the body of Christ. Priests, deacons and lay ministers cooperate and assist their bishops in pastoral ministry. The English term bishop derives from the Greek word episkopos, meaning overseer, in Greek, the early language of the Christian Church. However, the term episkopos did not originate in Christianity. In Greek literature, the term had been used for several centuries before the advent of Christianity. It later transformed into the Latin episcopus, Old English biscop, Middle English bishop or lastly bishop. In the early Christian era the term was not always clearly distinguished from presbyteros, but is used in the sense of the order or office of bishop, distinct from that of presbyter, in the writings attributed to Ignatius of Antioch. The earliest organization of the church in Jerusalem was, according to most scholars, similar to that of Jewish synagogues, but it had a council or college of ordained presbyters and deacon. In Timothy and Titus in the New Testament a more clearly defined episcopate can be seen. We are told that Paul had left Timothy in Ephesus and Titus in Crete to oversee the local church. Paul commands Titus to ordain presbyters, bishops and to exercise general oversight. Early sources are unclear but various groups of Christian communities may have had the bishop surrounded by a group or college functioning as leaders of the local churches. Eventually the head or monarchic bishop came to rule more clearly, and all local churches would eventually follow the example of the other churches and structure themselves after the model of the others with the one bishop in clearer charge, though the role of the body of presbyters remained important. Eventually, as Christendom grew, bishops no longer directly served individual congregations. Instead, the metropolitan bishop appointed priests to minister each congregation, acting as the bishop's delegate. Around the end of the 1st century, the church's organization became clearer in historical documents. In the works of the Apostolic Fathers, and Ignatius of Antioch in particular, the role of the episkopos, or bishop, became more important or, rather, already was very important and being clearly defined. While Ignatius of Antioch offers the earliest clear description of monarchical bishops, he is an advocate of monepiscopal structure rather than describing an accepted reality. To the bishops and house churches to which he writes, he offers strategies on how to pressure house churches who don't recognize the bishop into compliance. Other contemporary Christian writers do not describe monarchical bishops, either continuing to equate them with the presbyters or speaking of episcopoi in a city. Blessed be God, who has granted unto you, who are yourselves so excellent, to obtain such an excellent bishop. Epistle of Ignatius to the Ephesians chapter 1 verse 1, and that, being subject to the bishop and the presbytery, ye may in all respects be sanctified. Epistle of Ignatius to the Ephesians chapter 2 verse 1, for your justly renowned presbytery, worthy of God, is fitted as exactly to the bishop as the strings are to the harp. Epistle of Ignatius to the Ephesians chapter 4 verse 1, do ye, beloved, be careful to be subject to the bishop, and the presbyters and the deacons. Epistle of Ignatius to the Ephesians chapter 5 verse 1, plainly therefore we ought to regard the bishop as the Lord himself. Epistle of Ignatius to the Ephesians chapter 6 verse 1, Your godly bishop. Epistle of Ignatius to the Magnesians 2:1. The bishop presiding after the likeness of God and the presbyters after the likeness of the council of the apostles, with the deacons also who are most dear to me, having been entrusted with the diaconate of Jesus Christ. Epistle of Ignatius to the Magnesians 6:1. Therefore as the Lord did nothing without the Father, either by himself or by the apostles, so neither do ye anything without the bishop and the presb.